So yeah, those three pedals are on, going into my Joyo, and then we're hearing amplitube as well. Let's put on the whammy. So yeah, we got that kind of section also. But yeah, I really like to just play around with this sort of stuff myself. But yeah, you can get really like and then we can get your usual if I take the amplitube off. So that's through the Joyo, and then we have just the amplitube. And together. But yeah, I think that's a little bit of what it can do. And there's, like I said, I didn't even touch the looper. And you got so many routing options with this little box here. So you can do a lot of stuff, especially when you hook it up to a DAW. I think the tonal varieties from a board like this are quite nice. Lots of stuff you can do. I could go on, but that's how it turned out. I think my brother's gonna be really happy with this one. I know I am. I've been making a joke that I'll just tell him that I don't know, something happened, someone broke in and took all your pedals. I'm sorry, nothing else was taken. It's just the whole pedal board was missing. I got home and I noticed. That's how much I like it, because yeah, when you turn this thing on, and I mean, I play amplitube like usually. I just turn that on when I practice and blah blah blah, so on. But yeah, I can admit being having these myself at some point that there's just something to pressing pedals, crafting your sound like that, like on your fingers. It's different. So, and of course you can do that with a MIDI controller in the digital environment, but then you have to have basically something custom. So yeah, I do like having a pedal board myself, and at some point I'll be showing you mine, and that's gonna be even more, I'd say, well, this is not complicated, I think, but mine's gonna be a little more complicated than this, if you can say that this is complicated. That's it. All right, there it is. So we're gonna talk about it, and we're gonna start with the single chain before we get to the sounds. And our guitar is going in here, and then we are going to two different places, and one of them is my audio interface, and the other one is the Joyo amp there. And the Joyo amp is hooked up to a V30 that's in the isolation box I have, and there's a video about that. Of course, you can check it on my channel if you want to build one. It's pretty a handy thing. All right, so we have actually we got 4 different, I'd say, loops going on. So this box is fun for routing, and I have it routed now in a certain way, but I'm gonna also talk about how it can be routed and what you can do with it. So our signal is coming into this ABY pedal, and from there it's there's an A and B in from here, and then we have outputs, of course, for the A and B line. And the A line is actually has the whammy, then it has this little overdrive here, and then the rat in it. Then we have our effects selection, so modulation, and I like to run the tremolo in the effect loop of an amp. So we have that, the chorus, this delay, and the reverb, and they are in their own loop, so they have their own inputs in this box and then their own outputs. So if I want, I can run them into the FX loop of an amp from here, and I can run the whammy, the little overdrive, and the rat into the front. I think actually the Dynacomp is after the whammy in the line. And then we have a B loop, which is this overdrive pedal and the fuzz. So that's a different loop, and they're on their separate, so there's 2 cables running into this, and the overdrives are in there. And then this is its own loop as well, and it has two outputs. So it's going into this box, and the outputs are going in there as well. And right now I have it hooked up in a way that the A loop is running into the effects. So the whammy, the overdrive, the rat, and all these are running into the front of the amp or into the audio workstation. And then the B loop, which is the overdrive and the fuzz here, are routed with like a jumper cable in there. It's jumped into the loop station, and then the loop station has one out, and that's going into the Joyo amp, or it could be going into the audio interface. So, and that way I have, when I hook this up into my DAW, I have one channel that's going straight into the DAW. I can run it into a, well, amplitube that I use with all the effects. And then the other line is going into the amp, which is mic'd up with two mics. So then I can take that signal or those mics, and I can put two channels, and I can pan them left and right if I want. And then if I want, I can have a whammy with harmony or down, up tuned in the left and right. So like wet, dry, wet thing going on with all this stuff as well. Or the other way around, I can have the down tuned whammy in the center and then two signals left and right, however you want to pan or what, not, you know. So essentially I'll have three different signals going into my DAW, and that makes a pretty, I can make pretty cool, interesting, rich sounds like this. And I could of course also just run these into the loop of the amp, run these in front if I'd want, and then have actually even two more outputs from the loop station running the stuff from there. And yeah, I mean, this little box gives so many options what to do. Yeah, you can then try out what sounds best for you and in different scenarios. And I do gotta make a few patch cables for my brother to go with this board. And yeah, that's how. And of course you can then use this to, if you want, you can have just the other line playing or having sound, or then you can have them both going in simultaneously with this switch. So yeah, pretty neat. All right, so this is the DAW, and we have amplitube here on channel track 1. We just have a Marshall JCM 800. That's it. And then my Joyo amp is on these two tracks 2 and 3, and they are on, everything is on a bus that has an LA2A for a little bit of compression. And then on there, on the send, we have this reverb, and that's our single chain. So we essentially, I'd say we have 3 amps that are bussed into one. So that's what we have going on inside the DAW, and that's what you'll hear.